तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः.
Hello, Namaste. Welcome to Silent Wisdom Online Satsang. Last week we did Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, an introduction. Today we will continue with the same and experiment with a few more practices. So, first, just to recap what we did last week, Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. Here, Vigyan means consciousness. Bhairav means going beyond consciousness, and Tantra means the technique which takes you beyond consciousness. So, Tantra is basically a method or a technique. It does not believe in the why, it is all about the how. And Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is a dialogue between Shiva and Parvati, who are not guru and disciple, they are both lovers. And sometimes the question comes in the mind that why is Devi asking these questions to Shiva? See, Devi has reached that already through surrender. That's why they are both lovers, right? And she's sitting on the lap of Shiva and asking him, what is your reality? Is she asking for herself? No, she's not asking for herself. She is so completely surrendered, said that she is one with Shiva. But she is asking about these techniques for the rest of the world. Not even asking for techniques, asking for the reality, asking those questions. And then Shiva is giving techniques and he's not providing any answer. Do this and you know. Do that and you know. So there are 112 techniques here. We also discussed how Tantra has been misunderstood because it is such a pure science, it is of such a high level that there is a kind of intelligence which is required to understand Tantra. And because it was not understood, that is the reason that it has been misunderstood. Another thing about Tantra is that it is amoral. Amoral. So it has nothing to do with morality or immorality. Now, science is amoral, meaning that it is not concerned with that whether you are a good person or bad person. This good and bad is also a social conditioning. To science, if a medicine is given to a bad person or a good person, it will cure both of them. It is not going to have a difference. The same thing applies to these techniques. It has nothing to do with what is your idea of being a saint or a sinner. It's not concerned about it. You use the technique and you get the results. Another beautiful thing about these techniques is that in these 112 techniques, almost every possible human situation has been used to take you beyond consciousness. Everything. Whether it is when you are eating the food or you are just about to fall asleep, when you are about to wake up, when you are having a bath, when you are going to sneeze, when you are in the sex act, or you are meeting an old friend. I mean, all kinds of techniques, all kinds of situations have been used here to to go beyond consciousness. And last point, which was important here, is that these techniques are all about taking you beyond consciousness. That is something that we need to understand. Even when we say be aware or be conscious, now here I'm using aware and conscious as synonymous, okay, both of them. So even when you are being aware, it is still in duality. When you are unconscious, that is one part of the chitta, and when you are conscious, that is another part of the chitta, but you are still in duality. What these techniques are talking about is going beyond the duality. But today, as I had shared with you earlier, we need to first understand what is the difference between yoga and tantra. And because sometimes all of us get confused. For example, breathing practices, right? When you are doing the breathing, there are breathing practices in yoga and there are breathing practices in tantra. Which one is yoga and which one is tantra? Or when sex is used in yoga and also in tantra. But what is the differentiation between the two? So let's understand that. That is very interesting. So here it is told that while tantra and yoga reach to the same goal, and while both of them use methods and techniques. See, yoga is also a methodology, it's a process, there are techniques, and tantra is also techniques. But still, there is a very big difference between both of them. And you know what is the difference? The main difference is that in yoga, whatever that you are doing, you are fighting, you are trying to conquer, you are trying to achieve, you are trying to suppress. So there is a fight with what is natural. So for example, when we do breathing practices in yoga, as part of yoga, what do? You have to change your breathing. You have to either, deepen it, you have to do certain inhalations in a certain way, exhalation in a certain way, or you have to breathe in a particular manner. So in yoga, all the breathing will be about disciplining the breath. You are changing the breath. You are not doing whatever is. Whereas in tantra, you do not make any change in the breath. If you are taking short breaths, that is okay. If you are taking long breaths, that is okay. Even if, the breath is shifting from here to there, absolutely okay. Wherever you are, whatever you are, it's absolutely okay. There is no fight. You don't fight at all on the path of tantra. So, yoga is the path of fight, and tantra is the path of indulgence. We call it indulgence. Okay. Similarly, in sex, all the things that we have heard about, brahmacharya, celibacy, what is yoga saying? Yoga is saying you need to contain that sexual energy. We all know that is the basic energy. That is the natural source of energy that is available. And yoga says you need to contain it, you need to preserve it. So the whole focus is on celibacy. And we know of many traditions, for example, Jainism, for example, in other various yoga practices, where it is very important that you become a celibate is one of the requirements before you can walk on that path. But in tantra, it is something that is indulged in. But how? Indulged with awareness. That is the difference over here. Here, tantra says that your sex is the basic energy. You are born with it. The basic cells of your being. Okay, every cell of your being is sexual only. For a very simple reason, because everyone is born out of sex. All of us have been born out of that. So it is very natural that our body is sexual, and it's a biological thing. It is not something that the world has taught us. So for example, if a child is born and you never teach the child a particular language, the child will not learn. Okay, the language will not appear in that child. It is not biological, it is something social. But even if you do not teach that child anything, an age will come, a point will come when the sexual energy will arise. Okay, why? Because that is something very, very natural. It is biological. And for tantra, you do not need to fight what is naturally yours, right? What the nature has given to you. There is no need to fight that. In fact, tantra says, use that energy, transform it. Don't make it an enemy. Let it be your friend. It is your energy. It's not evil. It is not bad. It is just natural. Use it. Use it for yourself. Don't go against it. It's also like saying, actually by fighting, it is not going to work. And the path of yoga by suppressing the sexual energy is not easy at all. And not many people realize through that. Also, whatever we consider as our enemy, that actually becomes, that represses us more, that becomes more difficult to deal with. So, Tantra says that when there is a sexual desire, become aware, do not fight it. In fact, move into the desire with full consciousness. That is where your awareness, your consciousness comes in very, very handy. And those who have tasted how to be aware, that works beautifully over here. Because that is how you need to do this. Move into desire with full consciousness. And when you move into desire with full consciousness, you transcend it. That is the way of transcending. Not by fighting it, but by moving into it with awareness. So you pass through it, but you remain like an outsider. In this book of secrets, when Osho is explaining, he's also made a very important point here, which I quite liked. He says, yoga appeals to a lot of people, but not Tantra. And the reason is because yoga is just the opposite of an ordinary mind. See, for an ordinary mind, it is very useful and it is very easy to understand the language of yoga. And what is the language of yoga? Suppression, fighting, achievement, conquering, right? Considering that, okay, there is something and I need to conquer it. That is the language of an ordinary mind. And the mind understands, sex has been suppressed so much that, and you yourself know that, how your thoughts run all the time into it, that when yoga says you need to suppress it, it immediately appeals to you, right? Yoga says fight it, you just understand this language. Or let's say when it is about food, most people are fighting to conquer the desire of the food. And when a path teaches you, yoga teaches you, oh, you need to eat less, you need to eat only these kind of foods. So what is it doing? It is taking you in an opposite direction of where your mind is going. And you have suffered through your ordinary mind and through the ordinary understanding. And that's why the yoga has an appeal to you. But Tantra is not so appealing. Tantra looks like pretty difficult because the moment you say move into this desire, there is, you feel overwhelmed. How can you do that? How can I move into a sexual act with awareness? How is that possible? The ordinary mind becomes extremely scared, afraid. That's why yoga is appealing. And that is also the reason when Osho has given that book From Sex to Superconsciousness, and he was so openly talking about it. And in our country, not only in our country, actually all over, the sex has been repressed so much and people have been sex suppressed, sex starved, indulging mind. So everybody was like lost. And then people were thinking, oh, how can this be done? It just looked completely impossible. Why? The reason is because we are not natural anymore. That is the reason. That's why when the scriptures say, oh, you need to suppress it, that is more appealing. So please understand, here is a difference between an ordinary mind and a mind which has this awareness. So an ordinary mind is going to be afraid of Tantra. But a mind that has experienced awareness, to that mind, Tantra is going to appeal a lot. So what does Tantra says? Accept. Basically, it is saying accept whatsoever you are, wherever you are. And only by totally accepting, you can grow. Only then you can transcend. You cannot transcend by suppressing and fighting. It says accept, move with the energy, with deep sensitivity, awareness, love, understanding. And once you do that, then every desire becomes a vehicle to go beyond it. Every energy becomes a help. Every situation has the potential to take you beyond. And in this very world, in any kind of situation, in this very body, there is a possibility of nirvana. So, yoga is negation and tantra is affirmation. And because many of us here are from path of knowledge, you will also be happy to understand that yoga means, yoga already is saying that there is duality, isn't it? Yoga is like bringing the two together, putting two things together. So if that means with the moment you say two things, there is duality. And but Tantra says it already believes that there is no duality. It is already one. There is no dualism. And that's the reason why it is talking about indulgence, why it is able to talk about taking so many situations where you can go beyond it. One more thing about between Tantra and Yoga is, for Tantra, everything is holy, nothing is unholy. Just remember that. Everything is holy. Like an irreligious person would say that everything is unholy. And religious people say something is holy, something is unholy, right? Like some things are good, some things are bad. But for Tantra, everything is holy, or what we said, amoral, right? Everything is fine. It is not differentiating between people, situations, nothing. Everything can be used. And then, that is the thing, because Tantra says that everything is holy, that is why it becomes very difficult to understand. Because it is a deepest non-dual standpoint, isn't it? Don't we all get it? When we say non-duality, then where is the question of good and bad, holy or unholy? So Tantra in its very nature is at a non-dual standpoint. Tantra will appeal to those who understand non-duality, and that is the reason why after path of knowledge you are introduced to Tantra. So I hope this helps you understand the difference between how Tantra and Yoga, the techniques are there, but the way we use them. Yoga is trying to suppress, achieve control, fight, and Tantra is trying to indulge. That is the main difference between them. So now we are going to try 3 techniques today, okay? And the first technique that we will try is the very first technique which is given in this book, and I had talked about it last time also, Anapanasati Yoga, what is given in Vipassana. That is the very first technique of the 112 techniques. And it is given, this is the most popular technique. And this particular technique has been used by millions of people. So this itself is good enough. And it is also claimed that Buddha achieved through this technique. So that's why it is also considered to be a Buddhist technique, although it is not. It's just that because it has been used by Buddha, and it has been popularized by Vipassana, so it is considered to be a Buddhist technique. Okay. So let's try one. Now, I know many of us here are following different paths. No problem. We are doing this just for fun, just to try a few techniques. If you are not following any particular thing, then you can do that even later if it appeals to you. But otherwise, we can just do that for now and leave it. Whatever you feel comfortable with, okay? Some of you may not be in a position to do the meditation. No issue, no problem at all. You can just listen. So we will do this for about 3 to 4 minutes, okay? And what I would then suggest to those who want to do, why don't you all take a comfortable position, and so that you are relaxed. You could be sitting. Don't lie down, because if you lie down as it is late night, you may go off to sleep. So just sit in a comfortable position, relax your body, and close your eyes, because that helps. And the technique is very, very simple. It says you have to watch the gap between 2 breaths. Let me first explain a couple of things before you actually start doing it. Now, here again what I'm saying. Watch the gap between 2 breaths. So, what is the technique about? That as you are breathing, you don't need to change your breath at all. Okay, whether it is shallow or it is deep or it is short or long, doesn't matter. You just keep watching the breath. Go with it, inhale, stay with it. Okay, don't move here and there, don't go ahead, don't be behind. Just keep with your breath as the breath is moving into the nostrils, into the lungs, going deep into the stomach. Just stay with the breath. And it says watch the gap between the two breaths. And there are two things over here which have been explained in this book here. So when it says gap, that means after the inhalation is over and the exhalation begins, between the two there is a very short, almost millionth of a second gap interval there. Okay, now a very important point here, because we are talking about the gap, you don't have to stop your breath. There is nothing here that you do, that you try to change, because the moment you try to change, you enter into yoga. We are not doing yoga here, we are doing tantra here. Tantra means whatever is, I'm just watching. So there will be a gap, and then you exhale. And after you have finished exhaling and then you start inhaling, again there is a gap, maybe millionth of a second. And he's also said that it may take you months before you can actually see that gap. You may not be able to see that gap unless you have practiced this technique for some amount of time. So that is what is given over here. And then the second point is that when Buddha has given this Anapansati Yoga, he is not talking about the gap. Okay? And the reason is this, because the mind has this tendency to stop. Because the moment we talk about the gap, the mind will say after inhalation, oh, let me stop. Okay? And you can easily stop the breath. But the moment you stop the breath, what are you doing? You have entered into yoga. That is the difference. So while the technique here given is watch the gap between two breaths, I will suggest and I will advise that when we do it, we will do it the Buddha way, which is we will only watch our breath. Inhalation going in, coming out. Just stay with the breath. Maybe there is a possibility the mind will move, it will go here and there, come back to the breath. Just keep watching the breath, coming in, going out, coming in, going out. Okay, so let's start. All of you take a comfortable position. Just sit, relax your body. Just gently scan it from top of the head to the toes and check if there is any part in the body which is tensed. Mentally ask it to relax. And now you can start watching your breath. You don't have to change anything. Just follow your breath. Stay with it. Completely be with your breath, where it is every moment. We'll do this for 3 to 4 minutes, and then I'll tell you when to stop. All right. Now you can, with a couple of more breaths, you can open your eyes and come back. So simple the technique is, isn't it? Just watching the breath. That's it. Why it has been given as the first technique? As I said, one, because it is the most popular and it is considered to be the simplest. Simplest. And actually, you don't even need to, if you become comfortable with it, don't even need to close your eyes, sit in a specific place, nothing. Any time during the day, you can just sit and start watching the breath because there is nothing to change here. You can do it at any point of time. You are in the car, in the train, going somewhere, nothing to do. Instead of gossiping with the other person or looking here and there, just sit and start watching your breath. There is so much time to practice this technique. You don't need a special time to practice it. So simple. Okay, Vandana is saying instantly relaxing. Very nice. If you felt that relaxation, that's great. So this is on the first breathing technique where we don't need to change anything and just watch. Okay, I hope some of you enjoyed it. Okay, Graham is asking something. Is this the same gap that occurs before every appearance? Like every appearance arises from emptiness, appears and returns to emptiness. The return to emptiness, there is a gap. Absolutely, Graham, you got it right. Exactly. That is what the gap is being talked about. But the gap has to occur naturally, right? It is not forced over here. Yes, it is about that emptiness. Because that emptiness is going from, beyond consciousness, isn't it? Emptiness is the non-dual existence. Okay, Graham is saying can't stop that gap, everything would stop. Right. Yeah. Okay, very nice. So I know, we are all feeling relaxed. I'm also actually feeling, I was also doing it. So just feeling, don't feel like talking also, honestly. Anyways, so let's move on to the second one. And this is my favorite because this is also part of Kriya Yoga. Okay, in Kriya Yoga also we do this. And I have practiced this, like, of course, for so many years. And it's really, really very powerful. So first we did one on breath. Now this technique is where attention is used. Attention. Okay, Rajiv has a question. Is this also called as Bindu Bhedan? No, I don't think so, Rajiv. This is not Bindu Bhedan. Not I don't think so. This is not Bindu Bhedan. Bindu Bhedan that you're talking about is completely different. Bindu is the point, you can say, on the back of the skull, where generally the people, the pandits, they keep that choti, they keep a little, a tuft of hair. There's a particular point on the head over there. So Bindu Bhedan is part of some yogic kriyas. I don't know if that is also part of tantric kriyas, but definitely it is part of yogic kriyas. This is not one. Okay. So let's move on to the second technique. This is based on attention. Now the technique is focus your attention on the third eye. Okay, on the third eye. I hope we all know where the third eye is. It's just in the middle of the eyebrows, okay, forehead. There is a particular point where, actually when you move your attention over there, it naturally attracts, it loves attention. So it attracts your attention. So the technique is, let me now read it fully what the technique is. One is focus your attention on the third eye, and then it says, attention between eyebrows, let form fill with breath ascends to the top of the head and there shower as light. Let me explain it. Okay. First we look at the third eye. And the third eye, as I shared, is that particular point. And then on the top of the head, that means where those who understand chakras, your crown chakra or where your Sahasrara is, from there, you just feel that your top of the head, full forehead area, like between the third eye and the head, it is filled with breath essence. And breath essence is pran, the energy. So we don't know how breath essence is like. So what we can imagine is that it is covered with light. And this is something where imagination needs to be used. So first you focus on the third eye, and then you imagine that the top of the head is filled with light. Now, before we start doing this technique, let me share a few things about it. This was a technique which was given to Pythagoras. We all know Pythagoras, right? We've all heard of Pythagoras theorem. Okay, Vandana is asking Agya Chakra. Absolutely, Agya Chakra. You're right. Okay. And Pythagoras went with this technique to Greece, and with that he became the fountainhead, the source of all the mysticism in the West. Okay. So this is a very, very deep method. Now, science also knows that between the eyebrows, there is a gland. We all know, pineal gland. Many of you would have heard of it. Or in the Shiv Sutras, it is also called as Shiv Netra, the eye of the Shiva, what we call as a third eye. Okay. Now, this particular eye is generally non-functioning in most people. Okay. Or even if it is functioning, like really very, very low, it is not functioning. Okay. But it can function. If we use the right technique, it can function. And even in Kriya Yoga, there is a lot of focus, like all the methods which are done, all the Kriyas that are done as part of the Kriya Yoga, the focus is always kept on the third eye. And also, when we close our eyes, what happens is, there is a lot of energy, almost 70-80% of our energy is going out through the eyes. You would notice that whatever that we see, we remember better. That's because the eyes are consuming a lot of energy. So already there is a channel for our energy to flow out of our eyes. Now when we close those eyes and we put our attention on the third eye, what we do is, that energy which is present already, and because we have closed the eyes, it starts pushing onto that third eye. It starts pushing onto that pineal gland, that area over here. So pineal gland is part of our physical body, but then the third eye is also part of the astral body. So we are focusing over there. And the more we focus our energy over there, that starts opening up. Okay? That starts opening up. So, focusing on the third eye is the simplest way of focusing the attention. Okay, and you will find if you do a little practice, like we can put our attention on any part of the body, but if we put our attention on the third eye, it absorbs attention like anything. Okay, it is also given that for third eye, attention is food. Okay, it is hungry. The third eye is really, really hungry, and the more attention you give it, the more it starts taking. And a point comes, and those who would have practiced it would know, I know it, that a point comes when you don't even have to try anymore. It's like your full attention becomes glued on the third eye. It automatically starts functioning and takes on your energy. Like initially we have to put in effort to focus on there, and then it is like it becomes hypnotized by itself. It catches attention and it is like very, very magnetic. And if you'll see many of the methods in various practices, the focus is on the third eye. Okay. So let's now try this technique. Okay, Suma is saying it starts tingling in third eye. Yes, that is also an experience that many people feel. A tingling sensation, a warm sensation. Some people start seeing light, things like that. Many things happen over here. Okay, so how we are going to do this technique now? We'll again Of course, for this, we need to close our eyes. We'll take a relaxed position, close our eyes gently. Again, scan our body from top of the head to bottom of the toes and see that it is relaxed. Mentally tell that yes, relax. And then bring our attention to the third eye, between the eyebrows. We will bring our attention and start looking there. Don't worry if your attention moves here and there in between. Those who are not used to it, or if there are thoughts which occur, the mind also moves, attention moves, don't worry about it. Just keep yourself focused on that particular area. Okay? First do that, and in between I'll give you more instructions. You can also keep listening to me. It's just that, somewhere you are looking. Now you are looking at the third eye. Does not mean everything needs to be silent around you. No problem. Even as I'm talking, you are listening. Keep your attention on the third eye. Start looking there. Now, as you are becoming comfortable with your focus on the third eye, imagine your top of the head is filled with light. This is an imagination that you need to do. And both these things can happen at the same time. You're looking at the third eye, and the top of the head is filled with light. Stay there. Very nice. Slowly focus on your breath. Move your body a little bit, your toes and fingers, and come back. Open your eyes. I know some of you must have gone deep into it and enjoying it. No problem. You can do that later. Come back. Yes, Vinay. It is amazing. Vandana is asking, for me, the attention spreads outside. Attention spreads outside, meaning your focus goes on things which are happening outside the body. Is that what you're saying? Now, what happens with this particular technique? Okay, what is the purpose? As you keep focusing on the third eye, a point comes when you suddenly become a witness, a natural witness, witness beyond duality, not in that awareness. No, I'm not talking about that. The witness. And for whom the third eye center has opened, those who have done other practices, and when they come on path of knowledge and when that knowledge is given to them, they just immediately get it. Why? Because the third eye center was already open in them. Those who have trouble being a witness or becoming aware after path of knowledge, it's because of this, and that's why those techniques are taught in the fourth step. Okay, so you become a witness. And what happens when you become a witness? For one who is centered in the third eye, dreams will become real and the whole reality will become just a dream. I will repeat it. For one who is centered in the third eye, dreams will become real and the whole reality will become just a dream. Because when your dream can become real, you know there is no basic difference between dream and reality. And Osho has shared a very nice story here, an excerpt. What he says, that Sariputta came to Buddha. Okay, we've all heard about Sariput. He had meditated deeply and then he started having many visions, as it happens with anyone who goes into deep meditation. He was seeing heavens and hells and angels and gods and demons and whatnot. And they were so actual, so real, that every time he would just keep running to Buddha and tell him, you know what I saw today, this vision, that vision. And Buddha, what would Buddha answer? He will say, it's nothing, just dreams, just dreams. And Sariputta would say, no, they are so real. How can you say that they are dreams? When I see a flower in my vision, in my dream, it is more real than any flower in the world. The fragrance is there, I can touch it. He says, in fact, when I see you, now I don't see you as real. Imagine Sariputta is telling Buddha that I don't see you as real because my visions are more real than what is here in this world. The flower is more real than your being here just before me. Now, how do I differentiate between what is real and what is a dream? Sariputta is asking Buddha, what is the difference? How do I differentiate? And Buddha said, now that you are centered in the third eye, dream and reality are one. Dream and reality are one. Whatsoever you are dreaming will be real, and vice versa too. And vice versa too. Okay. So we again come back to when Shankaracharya says, or our path of knowledge says, that this whole world is an illusion, now it is not theoretical anymore for you. If you are centered in your third eye, it is not theory anymore. Even if nobody tells you, even if nobody gives you a 3D, even if nobody gives you a path of knowledge, nobody needs to tell you this. Through your own direct experience, you will see that this world is an illusion. That is what happens when you're established in the third eye. And it's a very, very powerful exercise. Very simple. Like many practices that we know of, they are employing a lot of, there are complicated techniques. And sometimes the mind needs something very complicated because the mind is very complicated. If you give the mind something very simple, it does not believe in it because it wants, oh, how can it be solved with such a simple technique? Okay. Even with Vipassana, even with the first technique that we did, many people have this question. Just by watching the breath, you can realize how is that possible, right? Because we have become so complicated. But just this technique, watching, you're focusing your attention on the third eye and imagining the top of the head filled with light, that is good enough to take you there. That's how powerful it is. Okay, Leila is asking, how long do you do this for? Sorry, I joined late. No problem. So, yes, that's a very good question, Leila. You can start with 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, 3 to 5 minutes. And I would say if you stay comfortable, you can go up to easily half an hour. But you have to check how is it turning out for you. So starting 3 minutes is a minimum. You must do it at least for 3 minutes. Okay. And then you can go up to half an hour about this. And also check that, how are you feeling after it? Even when we are looking at the third eye, something which is very important and I need to mention it. It has to be a very gentle looking. Please remember again the difference between Yoga and Tantra. In Tantra, we are not doing any kind of effort. It has to be effortless. Just like how you would look at a small baby or you would look at a small flower, a beautiful flower, very gently without any effort. Like you don't have to turn your eyes towards the top of the head and there is strain in the eyes. No, there has to be no strain. Just check your face, your all facial muscles should be relaxed. It should be as if without effort you are just looking over there. Gently, very gentle. So sometimes when people do a lot of straining, and it can happen if you don't know it, then you can also get headaches or something like that. If that happens, please stop immediately. Okay. So ensure that you do it in a very relaxed manner and start with very small, 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, Vinay is saying, practicing new technique for first time gives this wow feeling, but the feeling fades down as we try to stay with that for a long time. Very true. I agree to that. And when we do it for weeks and months, we get bored with the technique. I have experienced this in the past. Can you please comment why this could be happening? Very good question, Vinay. And you're absolutely right. So when it is something new, see, again, this is the mind that we are using, isn't it? Mind always loves something new. Whenever you go to a new place, you wanted to visit Switzerland, you go to Switzerland, one day you are like, wow. After 4 days, 5 days, okay. And you stay there for 1 month and maybe you start hating it, right? You need to come back. We all love new things. Something new happens, immediately the attention, naturally the attention goes there. And the wow factor comes because our attention is focused. Please remember that. Any time that gives us a wow feeling, it is because the attention is focused. Even when we are watching a movie, you see, when we are watching a thriller or a suspense movie, why do we get that wow feeling? Because the movie or the suspense is so good, the way it has been created is so good. It captures all our attention. We are completely focused. We forget everything around our surroundings, everything. So the focus is there. But then our mind is not so well trained that it can retain that focus. So it will start losing. And once it starts losing that focus, that is where your sadhana, your love for that particular technique or your love for your spiritual goal comes in. And that's true for everything. Whenever we start a new project also, even in office, new project starting, everyone is like, very much interested. We are all going gung-ho about it. Over a period of time, it becomes a plateau. Then there's a time everybody wants to quit. And then again, if we just stay with it, then it reaches that momentum again. So it's all the mind, nothing else in it, just the way the mind plays with us. So that's why we have to pick one technique. Here also there is a chance that can happen. How people go wrong with Vigyan Bhairav Tantra, because there are 112 techniques. So maybe for 3 days I will try one, then 3 days I will move on to the second one and the third one. Nothing will happen. Yes, you will experiment, you will know all these techniques, but don't expect any transformation to happen. If the transformation has to happen, then you have to stick with only one technique, only one. So you can experiment and then find one, and then also knowing this, that yes, there will be a time when my mind is not going to like it, when I'm going to feel bored. Who is feeling bored? The mind is feeling bored. Now it is not focusing anymore. Now it is running here and there. But I know that I need to stay with this. Okay. Even in Kriya Yoga, with me it has happened, with so many other people. Initially when I started, it was like awesome, like you're just looking forward to it every day. And then a time comes when it becomes such a big drag. It's like, you're just ticking that, okay, I have done it for the day. I have done it for the day. But that's okay. That is going to happen. It becomes okay. I hope that answers your question, Vinay. So I had planned to do one more, but I think that would be too much. 2 in one session are good enough. Maybe we can do one more session. Okay. So because there is one more technique that I definitely want to share with all of you. We can try, we'll do one more session on this so that we can do 2 more techniques next time. Sanjeev is asking, is there any Vigyan Bhairav Tantra technique to view past lives? No, that is not the purpose. You see, the purpose of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra is to go beyond consciousness, not to view past lives. If you go beyond consciousness, who knows, you may be able to also access your past lives. You may be able to see them as a result of going beyond that. That is a possibility. And then there are techniques, there are people who claim that nobody needs to be realized to get into past lives. There are people who teach techniques. I know there are some breathing practices. There is a particular way, when you breathe in such a way, you can get glimpses of your past lives. All of those things are possible. Okay, but that is not the purpose of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra. So I hope you all enjoyed this session and got some glimpses. We all had fun doing these 2 techniques. So meanwhile, you can have fun with these, try them out, and let us know in the group if there is something that you feel or you experience. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for participating. And I'm going to see you again next week. Thank you.